Hello everybody, welcome to the Syncretic Bull of Taurus in the field. What you're looking at is a visual representation of everything in the universe, and that's going to be my claim and what I'm going to try to portray to you. This is a symbol in which you will find, this is the atom, this is a Taurus field, this is the Bible, this is an apple. Syncretism is the idea of understanding the root essence of all fields of study, including religion, theology, the physical sciences, all of the metaphysical sciences. They're all built into the symbol you see, and I really encourage people to, well, first of all, stick with me long enough to understand the model, but then to test it scientifically through all the rigorous scientific method that you can come up with. And I would love to hear where this does not stand up to reality so that I can adjust it so that it does, because I only care about truth. I don't care about anything else. And I'm trying to help. There's an awakening going on. Some of us are a part of it. Some of us are just waking up to it. But it's happening, and I'm going to try to propel it along in a spiritual way, and not let the material aspects of waking up define the day. Let's get back to the spiritual essence of nature. So, what we have in front of us, you can kind of visually see the Taurus field. Anybody who's familiar with the Taurus field? This is a donut shaped, this is a 360-degree donut shape, and this is a hyperboloid hourglass shape in the middle. The hyperboloid shape is the inverse counter space of the Taurus field, and the Taurus field is the inverse counter space of the hyperboloid. And these are the two, co-natured principles of the universe. The core of what we're going to understand here is that this center point, and I just want to make sure that people know that this is green visually, the blue and the red. It probably looks yellow, but it's green, and that matters. But this is what would be the nucleus if this were an atom. This is what gets mistaken for the bulk of the mass, of a particle. But what I'm teaching here is that there are no particles, and what all great science minds have ever taught is that there are no particles, including Tesla. This is a pulse. It's a spiritual pulse, just like your heart, and just like the pulse that exists in the sun and inside of every other Taurus field, atomic structure, exists a spiritual interdimensional pulse. That's where we're getting into words like God for some people. Some scientific minds call it counter space or the 0 point. You can call it a lot of things. It's probably best understood as the ether by just sort of the average mind. And the understanding that is a pulse is the key to understanding life and reality and everything that's been hidden from you. What you're looking at has been hidden from you. Everything that's ever been put on your television was created to distract you from this. Point blank. Nothing else. You can see that the signs of the zodiac are written on here, and people have a hard time with astrology and thinking about that as science, but what you're looking at is science, and science happens along the zodiac. It's the ecliptic, essentially. Just as the sun travels, there's every Taurus field has this ecliptic. Now this pulse that's happening, it creates a perturbation in the field. This line right here is the dielectric inertial plane of every Taurus field, including the Taurus field of the Earth. This is the dielectric inertial plane of the Earth. And this is creating a magnetic pulse, which creates instantaneous action at a distance. This is magnetism. This is a longitudinal scalar wave, instantaneous action at a distance. This pulse also creates, these are called transverse waves. And that's essentially electricity. Electricity takes time to travel. This is, this is the sine wave. We're getting into syncretism and how I was saying that this is the Bible. We'll get deeper into that, but this is the sine wave, the sin of Eve. Sine wave, sin of Eve. You're born into sin. You're born into time. This transverse wave is the definition of time. The magnitude of the wave depends on the power of the magnetic pulse. Now, what we have here is the yin yang, the two yin yangs. This is the black and white is the spiritual yin yang, and the red and blue is the physical. This is transcendental, this is material. Black represents dielectricity. This is the dielectric plane of inertia. White light, pure undifferentiated white light, represents spiritual magnetism. Divine, this is divine, unseen, spiritual realm of causation modalities. And dielectricity, everything's kind of dielectricity when it's all really broken down, but dielectricity can kind of be understood as it's electrostatic, static electricity. And so when that static electricity is acted upon by magnetism, there's a creation that happens. And that creation is the red and blue world of effects. We are the result of a higher transcendental union. Everything that you see, feel, and touch, it lives on this red and blue spectrum of light. This is the visible, all of this stuff. Everything you see, feel, and touch is part of this red and blue spectrum of light. And we'll get into this further, understanding this within the human chakra system. But I want to jump into the Bible stuff because I think that really grabs people's attention, and it grabs people who might not listen for very long because they think this is all woo-woo and weird. So I want to talk about the Bible. And to talk about the Bible, we need to start with learning about the sign Taurus, as we understand that this is the Taurus field, and there's a zodiac sign called Taurus. Now, Taurus in astrology is the fixed earth sign of the zodiac. This is the fixed earth plane of the Taurus field. Now, the Taurus is the bull in astrology. It's the symbol is the bull. And so when we get into learning, the depths of this syncretism, where everything kind of, I didn't mention etymology when I was saying that syncretism is the syncing up of all, religions and sciences. It's language too. Language is sort of at the core of that whole idea of what syncretism is. It plays out through the language. And the bull of Taurus represents, this is the Bible, the two halves of the bull, the two halves of this Taurus field. You can call this the Bible, however you kind of want to look at it. Within the single zodiac, there's the Bible, the two bulls. It could also be called the Bi-Bowls. This is a bowl, this is a bowl. It could be thought of as cups. And this could be the cup of salvation, and this is the cup of judgment. The sun exalts in Aries. It rises to save us from the long, cold winter. And then Saturn exalts in Libra. Saturn is the planet of judgment. Libra is the scales. This is the cup of judgment. Cup of salvation, cup of judgment. These are also the Bi-Bowls. B-O-L-E means like trunk of a tree, and this would be the tree of life, and this would be the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because this is, life. They're just words, but this is live, evil, This is summer, photosynthesis, things grow here. This is cold. It's all duality is kind of built into this. But when you say good and evil, you could say light, dark, hot, cold, yang, yin. You could go all sorts of different directions of duality, electric, magnetic. But this is the knowledge of good and evil because you've now understood good, and now you have the knowledge of evil too. And it's just evil because people in the olden days tended to die down in this half of the the bull, and flourish up here. So there's the Bible. There's also a parable. Jesus spoke in parables, right? Here's the parables. Now, if this is this is a circuit, if this is the sun traveling this circuit, this is Aries. This is the spring equinox. Come up here to Cancer in the summer solstice, the fall, the autumn equinox, and the invernal solstice. So we've got vernal means green. I can't remember the name. There's a fancy name for that, which means heat. I can't remember. Esther solstice, something like that. And then we've got the autumnal. AU is gold. It's the golden sun. Autumn, the golden atom. This is where the sun brings green into the earth. This is where the sun is bringing the goldness of fall into the earth. It's the autumn. It's the fall because the sun is falling here. And we get down here to winter, and the winter solstice, and back up to spring and the spring equinox. So within that circuit, these are the equinox points. Boom, boom, which we just had. And those could be called equal axes. Parables, Bible, equal axes. These are the equinox points, equal axes. And this, down the middle, would be the cross of the ox, or the crucifix. And then you can see, these would be crucibles, crosses of the bull. And when you look up crucible is a cup, a container, in which you put, a container in which things are put in order to undergo transformation due to elemental pressure and time. That's the definition of a crucible. Every sign represents an element, and so this is time. Like I said before, we're born into time. We're born into a crucible of time in order to grow and transform. That's the whole point of life. This is getting into understanding that, holy cow, we are here to grow. You can really understand the evolution of a soul by studying astrology. It starts in Aries and it ends in Pisces. That's the path we all take. This is, Joseph Campbell's, the hero's journey. This is that hero's journey. This is what, they build Star Wars off of that book. This is the Star Wars journey. You find it in every story, it's just especially stories that last like that, because they touch on archetypal themes that touch you on a subconscious level that you don't quite understand. But this is so ingrained in nature that everybody intuitively understands it on a certain level. Now,